Hello and welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right, so if you are passionate about providing comprehensive care for women of color and empowering them through holistic healthcare approaches, I think you are going to absolutely love this session. I am so delighted to be here today with Stefanie Gilbreath and Briana Butler from Stef and Bree Wellness. And today we are going to be talking about breaking barriers, empowering women of color through comprehensive health care. And I'm going to just give you a quick overview of some of the topics that we'll be exploring today. So, first and foremost, we're going to be exploring the significance of comprehensive care and its impact on the well being of women of color. We're going to dig into the GNAW method, and that's spelled GNAW. I love that. And we're going to talk a little bit more. This is Stef and Bree's unique approach to serving their clients. And we'll be talking about how that fits in terms of helping their clients to create a really strong nutrition foundation that aligns with their active lifestyle and ultimately promoting a shift from diet centered to sustainable and empowering choices. We're also going to chat about the topic of personalized support and those strategies that they are implementing to provide individualized guidance and support, as well as creating a supportive environment. And this is a really, really interesting topic as well, because honestly, it's group coaching, right? So Steph and Bree are running a very successful membership. And so we'll be digging into some topics related to how to, really manage a group to ensure that it's a judgment-free zone and in a place where they can cultivate a safe space for women of color to connect and discuss all kinds of topics, including nutrition, exercise, and various aspects of life. And of course, much more. So, again, I want to welcome everyone, and I want to especially welcome Steph and Bree. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having
Thank you for
us.
having us.
I am delighted. Such a critical topic. So,
Yes.
what I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. So, I didn't read your bios. I thought it would be probably a little more interesting coming directly from you. So, can you tell us a little bit about, each of your backgrounds and how you came to this place where you are today?
Yeah. I'm Stephanie Gilbreath, by the way. Bree and I kind of everything really started with basketball, right? We were both professional athletes, started in college. I ended up having injuries. My father had some health issues, and that I would like to say kind of jump started Bree's journey into wellness and been wanting to be a dietitian. And from there, we kind of after college, continued to play basketball. Both played professionally. I played overseas, and Bree played overseas and in the WNBA. And after that, we kind of saw a need for nutrition, and we just understood that some athletes were getting it, some athletes weren't, and so we really wanted to give the athletes what we thought was needed. And at that time, it was meal prep, and some type of nutrition information to go along with that meal prep. So we actually started as a blog, and we were putting recipes on the blog. We were helping, doing some consults with some of the athletes, and we just wanted them to give them a place to go. And from there, it's blossomed. So at that time, we were power portions. We were just working with professional athletes. And we were, like I said, meal prepping, and we grew into more of just like a nutrition coaching company. We dropped off the meal prep and just honed in on nutrition. And Bree went and got her master's and all the things. I mean, she can expand on her side of coming into this company and how she's become the dietitian that she has today. But from there, we added on in the past year or so, we've added on the GNAW Collective, and that's kind of another branch. So we've developed into Stefanie Wellness. We have two brands where we service professional athletes and women of color under the GNAW Collective, and it's blossomed from there. I mean, that's so like I'm still like talking about it. It's I'm still so happy that we've grown over the past 8 years, but that's kind of the gist of our journey and how we've grown into this company today.
Amazing. And I cannot wait to dig in deeper
Yeah.
on, the thought process behind niching down and all of that good stuff. But before we go there, I just wanted to check in with Bree. Did you want to share a little bit about your background as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Steph mentioned, former professional athlete, and I am the lead dietitian for Stefanie Wellness and the Knot Collective. So, I got my bachelor's degree in human performance from USC, University of Southern California, fight on.
Woo!
And then got my master's degree in clinical nutrition from UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. And so, a lot of my internship and a lot of my experiences that came early in my career were really clinical based. And I also got some sports experience as well, which came naturally, but really got the balance of both. And I think that was kind of my first experience with saying, oh, you know what? I actually might have a little bit more of an interest outside of sports than I originally thought. Because originally I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go back, I'm going to get my RD license, and I'm going to strictly be a sports dietitian. But being and getting in those experiences, working at WIC, working at Parkland Hospital, working at different public hospitals in Dallas, I was like, wow, this might be a space for me too. So it was a great experience for me. And I also was able to just have some of my interests peaked a little bit. So it was definitely good. Also, my kids are in the background. You might hear those
That's all
kiddos.
right. This is real
Um,
life.
yes,
Right.
exactly. But that's kind of where my background is and how it started and all of that, and really how some of my interests got piqued, and how I started diving a little bit more and trying to learn a little bit more about women of color and community and different types of nutrition.
Okay, so awesome. Okay, so let's jump in and talk about the transition, right? So, what was it that compelled you to essentially niche down? Because you had mentioned, and this is when we worked together, it was
Yeah.
really under the Power Portions brand.
Mhm.
And then subsequently, you guys made some really brilliant decisions, I think, in terms of, niching down and then creating this whole new brand,
Yeah.
essentially. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about like the thought process and what that looks like now.
Yeah, I think, as you said, working with you, we were able to really figure out like, okay, what are we doing? How do we, like grow into a bigger brand? What are we doing in our lives right now? We really had to take time to break down our individual lives and what we want in a business, what we're looking for, and then come together and like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, where am I at? How do I want to grow? And kind of like collab and build this the brand that we have now. But we really had to make a pivot. And as we said, like we were athletes before, we're always going to be athletes, but
Mm-hmm.
our lives look a little different now. Bree's now a mother of two. I am no longer training like an athlete. I am a businesswoman. I'm doing the 9 to 5 thing. Like my life looks completely different. It's not just hyper focused on sports and working out and things like that. So we were just like, okay, this is where we're at right now. We might not align on the everyday basis of an athlete, but we're still there. That's our heart, that's our baby. But we want to service the women that look like us now. And where we're at right now, because that's what we align with. And so we really broke down and talked to a lot of women and trying to see what it is that we need. What are we not getting? Once again, as athletes,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't, there was something we weren't seeing. And now as women of color, we're like, this is what's needed. This is how we can service it and really like niche down. Like this is exactly the clientele that we wanted to work with. And I mean, once we did that, it kind of like molded itself into its own company.
I love that. And what are some of those main challenges and struggles that your clients face?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's finding the balance between all the things they love, right? The family, fun, their work, motherhood, exercise, and still trying to, eat well, right? And
Mm-hmm.
trying to dive through a lot of the like pseudoscience and a lot of the influencer education that's out there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, for them, the main thing we hear is, okay, I want to eat well. I want to feel good, but I also do not know where to start. I also want to have fun with my friends at brunch, and I also want to, go after that promotion at work. Do I have time for this? And so the balance of all the things that they're doing in their life and wanting to be able to tackle their health out of choice, not out of obligation. So that's the other piece that we hear. Number one would be, finding that balance. But number two is saying, okay, you know what? I'm seeing family members, I'm seeing friends, I'm seeing people that are now dealing with health issues, whether they're on medication or whatever. And now I might even be feeling a few things and seeing a few things. And I want to get ahead of it. I want to tackle this and I want to do it well before something happens. And now I'm having to, go back and try to make changes. So trying to make those changes out of choice versus out of obligation. So that
Mm-hmm.
would be challenge number two. And challenge number three is finding care that looks like them. That is one of the most difficult things that they have found. And one of the main things we hear from clients that either do discovery call with us or reach out to us or follow us on Instagram is, hey, you know what? I have been looking for a practitioner of color, or I have been looking for
Mm.
someone that looks like me, and understands the things that I go through. So I would say those are three of the main struggles that we see from our clients or potential clients that come to us.
Okay. Okay. So there's definitely a need, like a very unique set of needs that you guys are fulfilling in your business,
Yeah.
which is so good. So can you talk a little bit about how you approach serving them? So tell us a little bit about what
Yeah.
that looks like. So again, just so everyone is clear, um, and perhaps the two of you can expand on this as well. But we've got two brands under Stef and Bree
Mhm.
Wellness. One is Power Portions, and here we are targeting the athlete, right? And then the
Hmm.
Yeah.
second brand is GNAW. All
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
And this is the community, right? I know it's also the approach, and we're going to get into that a little bit. Uh, but if you could just maybe elaborate on that a little bit, just so our audience has a clear understanding, and then parlay that into how do you go about serving these women of color and really meeting their
Yeah.
needs.
Sure.
It's a big
So first I'll
question.
break down just like, no, it's okay. It's okay. That is the question of the day.
Right.
So first I'll break down just like what we do in the differences in coaching style between the
Okay.
two programs and the two
Okay.
brands. Because with Power Portions, with us servicing professional athletes and athletes in general and active people under that brand, it's more of a one-to-one niche program that we have. We send them through different phases, but essentially it's very, very concierge type work,
Okay.
because we found that the professional athletes normally that come to us are not looking to community. They're looking to, have a dietitian that can help them to get better in their sport. So it's very, very streamlined and again, more one to one, not much community there. And so that's Power Portions. The NAW Collective is different in that there is community, but there's also one to one coaching, but it's more comprehensive. So, on that side, that is our membership side, and it is for active women of color. And they have the opportunity to partake in group coaching calls and community events, as well as receive one to one coaching if they would like. So, it's a little bit different of a business model, really, on both ends. So we have our one-to-one coaching, and then we have our membership that does entail some one-to-one, but is also kind of group as well. So we'll focus a little bit on the NAW Collective and
Okay.
how we kind of service those women. So essentially, essentially, we have our 4 pillars that we kind of follow in the NAW Collective, and that's community, that is education, that is diet-free healthcare, and that is movement. So we try to offer our ladies community events, group coaching calls, blogs, content, all kinds of stuff there. And then under the diet free healthcare, we have our one-to-one coaching courses, and we also have access to things like Full Script, Eat Love, our lab testing through Rupa, all of that type of stuff. So it's fully comprehensive. But again, it is a community. So you have a lot of women coming together, taking advantage of group stuff, but then also still able to meet with the dietitian on the side and have that one-to-one personalized care that they're always craving. So that's kind of how we service them in regard to what we offer them. And whenever we are in the space of coaching, whether that's in the group coaching that we do through our monthly coaching calls, or even in our one-to-one coaching, we typically follow our GNAW method. And so I know we'll talk about that a little bit today, but essentially the GNAW method is kind of our philosophy that we've created, because we don't really have one philosophy that was out there that we're like, oh, that totally aligns with us. We kind of had to bring together a few different things because we're like, you know what, we want it to be gentle, and that's where the G comes from. So NAW stands for Gentle Nutrition for Active Women of Color. So that gentle piece is saying, oh, okay, you know what? Let's empower you. Let's take this thing and let's do it the right way. Let's take it slow. It doesn't need to be harsh. It needs to be easy in regard to those nutrition changes. So we kind of loop that in. But we also looped in understanding their identity and understanding their body and how their experiences might be different from their other counterparts that may look a little different than them. Understanding how do we loop in cultural foods and how do we move our bodies in a way that feels really good to us. So we developed that GNAW method, and normally that's what we follow whenever we do our coaching calls or our one-to-one coaching.
Okay. So in the NAW Collective, we have it's a membership, right? It is a collective type of membership. And it looks like you have 3 different levels, right?
Mhm.
And I'm looking at your website. So you've got essentials, premium, and all access.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about just that decision making process?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to
Yeah,
give
we can both.
we
Say
kind of
that
wanted to
again.
give our ladies, yeah, a little bit of options. So without giving them too many, you know what I mean? So we wanted to give, like with our essentials, you're kind of giving them a little bit of information. You're kind of hands off, just like letting you go about things in your way, in your process.
Hmm.
With the premium, it's the best of both worlds. So we're hands on, but not too much. We give you the leeway. You get the information, you get the community, and then you're still able to do things on your own time. You get your dietitian, you get to check ins and everything like that. And with the all access, it's all hands on deck. We're on you. We're trying to get the information. We're trying to revamp some things and making sure you're getting the information that you're needing.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so yeah, I'm looking at the all access, and based on on the information on your website, it looks like it does include bi-weekly one-on-one 60-minute nutrition check-ins with
Yeah.
your personal dietitian. And I should also
Yes.
mention, just so our audience is clear, that Steph and Bree, they do have a team of dietitians, right?
Mhm.
Which is brilliant. I love it. Any
Yes.
way that we can scale these businesses, I'm all about it. So great, great job there. And so do you assign each new person that signs up for the all access their own dietitian that follows them throughout their work with
Yes.
you?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. So,
Okay.
and imagine our tiers kind of being like, when you build out your own business as a practitioner, you have those three levels of service, like
Mm-hmm.
you've got that, level where you just got content kind of in like community, and then you kind of level up in regard to the amount of care that you give, and the amount of connection and touch points that you have. So, once we get to that all access, we find that those ladies that are a part of that are really like, you know what, I need to revamp everything. So imagine that being really our signature program.
Okay.
And so we have more touch points there, and we do assign to a specific dietitian based off of what we hear in our discovery call or what they feel they need. So we kind of try to break down like who does what and what our specialties are. But oftentimes we might have the ladies do a discovery call and kind of get a little more information from us, and we find out, oh, you know what, maybe you're dealing with more GI, or maybe you're someone who's trying to prepare for conception, things like that. And so once we have that information, we try to make sure we assign them with the appropriate dietitian so that they get someone that really aligns with what they're looking for. So it's not just like everybody's doing all things, and they
Right.
actually can connect and get someone with a specialty, which is great.
Oh, that's so good. Okay. And then it looks like your the middle level, the premium, includes not only does it include the monthly group coaching calls, but it also does include a monthly one-on-one 60-minute session. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. So, we've got essentials, which is no private coaching,
Right.
just group, and lots of other great inclusions as well. Premium is one monthly private call with a dietitian each
Mm-hmm.
month, plus lots of other goodies. And then the all access, we're really ramping things up. And they get or excuse me, yeah, two sessions per month.
Yep.
Okay,
Pretty much.
great. And for our audience, if you want to check this out, it is, especially being a visual person, I find it
Right.
helpful to see this. It's Steph and Bree, and it's STEF and Bri.com. StephandBree.com. So you can
Yes.
go and check this out and see how they've organized these memberships. Okay, great. So that gives me a little bit of background. All right, so we started talking about the GNAW method, and could you elaborate a little bit more, or is there anything else that you can add? I understand that G is for gentle nutrition, which makes a ton of sense. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to move people away from, always being on that diet roller coaster, essentially, right? And just
Yeah.
that constant pressure, right? That, I have to
Mm-hmm.
be on the diet or I'm getting ready for the
Yeah.
next diet, which is such a
Exactly.
hard way to live, right? And it's just not healthy,
Absolutely.
and it's just it's a rough place to be. Do you find that's where a lot of your people are when they come to you?
Yes, 100%. They come to us, they've tried everything. They have seen everything, they've done everything, and they are just like, you know what? I give up. So that's like normally the sentiment that we hear whenever women come to us. And the NAW method actually started as our signature program. So it's what we kind of created, our signature program that we were sending women of color through before we kind of branched off into NAW.
Okay.
And so it was our philosophy that we had already kind of established. And phase one essentially is identifying who they are and kind of establishing that, because we found, okay, if you haven't established who you are and who you want to be and how you want to show up, then it's going to be very difficult to create a nutrition program or a health program that you can actually stick to, because you need to know what the end game is. You need to know who it is that you want to be. And if you're able to kind of pull in the pieces nutritionally and health wise that align with that, then you're more likely to stick to it. So we kind of start off with that. And then we kind of go into unpacking some of the diet mindsets that they might have, trying to undo some of that, creating a new foundation for them, and kind of getting rid of some of those barriers that are keeping them from progressing. And then we kind of go through learning their body and learning about what makes you different as a woman of
Mm,
color. What are some of the things that you might experience that someone else might not? And how do we navigate that? How do we see it and not necessarily use it as something that's holding us back, but assess it and say, how can we tackle this mountain? And how can we
mhm.
get to the other side the best way possible and stick to it? And then after we kind of knock all that out of the way and kind of establish that new foundation, then we actually bring in the education piece in regard to, okay, how can we make peace with food, right? What is food for, and how do we utilize it, and all of that? How can we use those cultural foods and still implement that into our nutrition programming? How do we do that? How do we do meal planning without dieting? Is that a possibility? Absolutely, it is. So we kind of go through those phases, and then we round it out with, okay, now that we've learned all that, now that we've gotten rid of all of that old stuff that was holding us back, how can we loop in movement? How can we get a little more personalized, and so that we can really help you to reach the additional goals that you might have, whatever that might be? Maybe that's having more energy so that you don't bonk out at work by noon. Maybe that's being able to go run a 5K. Some of our ladies are super active and they want to go do things like that. Or maybe that's just for some of them, they might be interested in weight loss. So we kind of talk about that. Well, why do you want that? What does that look like? Is that something, that we can approach? So we try to make sure that we honor whatever their goals are in that last phase of our program, now that we've kind of established that new foundation. And that's typically where we're able to help them to really knock it out the park, and really create that sustainability that they're looking for.
Okay, love that. Can you comment at all on, maybe some of the challenges that you bump into and how you perhaps overcome them in terms
Mm-hmm.
of what we would call group dynamics, right? Group coaching and group dynamics, because it really is, it's a unique approach, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
And, like there's going to be challenges, bumps in the road, right? Obviously
Mm-hmm.
you want everyone to feel heard, right? And
Yeah.
seen, but you need to kind of spread the love. So tell us a little
Yes.
bit from your perspective, like maybe some of your just the whole concept
Yeah.
of group intimidating,
We'll kind of
right?
tag
Like,
team this. We'll tag team this because we actually
okay,
just had an event, and it's our annual Sip and Learn, and we experienced some of this. And so
okay,
I'll talk about it a little bit. Steph can probably follow
okay.
up, but one of the main issues that we see, or barriers, or should I say, just like hardships that we find with group coaching, is that everyone has questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has personal questions too. And so you kind of have to find that balance of like saying, okay, how can I answer this question in a way that it can be applicable for the whole group? And how can I also lead them into saying, hey, this is actually something that you should probably get some one to one support on. So
Mm,
we kind of have to decipher the difference between, yes, go ahead and answer this question and let it be something that the whole group can utilize, or going the direction of saying, hey, that's a great question, but that is a little more personal. So we highly recommend come talk
mm,
to us on the side, or let's, schedule a one-to-one, consult so that we can actually dive through this a little bit more. Normally they're a little more open to that, but I would say that's one of the main things. And Steph leads some of our like group conversations. We do like a sips with Steph. And so that's why I said she can probably tag team a little bit, and add in any other things that she deals with when leading those calls too.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love what you've shared because I mean, sometimes it does kind of move into medical nutrition therapy, right? Where it's
Mm-hmm.
personalized, it's really based on that person's unique health history and goals and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
So, kind of tricky to navigate.
yeah, yeah. And we run into just wanting to give a safe space in all realms. So it can be
Mm,
very like you're used to sitting there with your dietitian and having that one-on-one conversation, but we want to give options. Some people like to talk, as Bree said, on our platform in an open space or at our events. And we also give the option to sit and have a drink with us and just talk like we're just sitting with your friends and having a conversation, because we find that everybody has a different way, their different comfortabilities, and you find out different information, what's going on, and that helps us as well to figure out, okay, this is what they're hearing on social media, so let's try to tackle this. Maybe this is the next lesson. Maybe we bump this up and talk about this topic, because when we had this discussion with five ladies, they're all saying the same thing. So it also gives us a little insight on what's being said, because as since we're in the world of nutrition, we're seeing sometimes very straightforward, like some of the things that are being said, but we're not listening to what is actually being said in other topics that are really high on the priority list and things that women want to know. And so we give those spaces to have those open conversations and discuss hot topics and what's going on.
Okay. Okay. So it really is kind of a dance, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and I really can imagine that, like let's say someone in the essentials membership, right? Sometimes, and this is just my assumption here, let me know if I'm off, but I would imagine sometimes people that sign up for the lower level of support probably need to be in a higher level of support, right? I'm just kind of guessing, right?
Yes.
So so how do you gently get them to move forward, right? So that they really get the
Yeah.
results that they want and they get their needs met in a really powerful way.
Yeah. Normally, what happens, we get that a lot, by the way. Yes,
Okay.
that does happen. And it actually happens at both the essentials and the premium tier.
Okay.
And normally, how we get them to move to that next level is having that one-to-one conversation, whether that's over Zoom or in person at an event or whatever, and kind of saying, hey, you know what, I'm hearing that you're saying this. Have you ever thought of doing A, B, or C, right? Have you ever thought of having, some labs checked? Have you ever thought of, meeting with a dietitian? Have you ever thought of kind of going through and getting some meal planning? Sounds like that's really what you're needing. Would you, is that something that aligns with your thoughts? And normally the answer is yes, I think I need that. I really feel like I'm missing that piece in my life. And so then we'll say, well, you really could utilize this next level, just something to consider.
Hmm.
It would be, it's not that much of a difference when you think about, like, especially if you're able to use HSA and FSA savings accounts, if
Right.
you're able to, just set aside a little extra just to go along with that, because normally, you get all these extra things in addition to the one-to-one coaching, right? So we kind of just share with them what they would get at that next level and how it aligns with that specific problem that we're finding that they're having, because typically there's a solution in the next level that will help them to overcome whatever that main problem is that they're mentioning to us.
Okay. All right. So interesting. So we've got a lot of different practitioners that are most likely viewing our conversation today. There's a lot of interest. And as we talked about before we started recording, it's such an important topic, right? This whole topic of empowering women of color. And interestingly, not a lot of people are out there talking about it. So that's why I was just so thrilled to have you both share your experiences. And also, I'm just kind of wondering how practitioners or maybe brands can be allies in in this goal, right? The overarching goal of empowering women of color. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the main thing, you kind of look at it a few different directions. So for practitioners, there's a few options. Number one is when you do have, somewhat a person of color, a woman of color that has showed up at your practice, right? They're coming knocking at your door, or they, send you an email or whatever. Is being open and willing to create that safe space. That is
Okay.
something that has been so important for us, and going and walking into it in a very non-judgmental way, assessing any biases that you might have and just
Mm,
going through it and saying, hey, you know what? Are there beliefs that I might have, that I probably should check at the door, so that you can create that safe space and you can provide that care that you should be able to provide. So that's really step number one, is kind of
okay.
looking internally and being prepared to create the space. But step number two as a practitioner would be, if you don't feel comfortable, it's okay to refer out. It's okay to find somebody, especially if they're coming to you and they're saying, hey, you know what? I really would love a practitioner that looks like me. having resources and having people that you can refer out to can be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And that really allows for us to create that allyship that we need. Because if there aren't a ton of us out there, but if you can connect someone who's looking for someone of color to be their practitioner, then having that referral system can be very helpful. But again, if you feel ready and prepared to take on that client, then just creating that safe space and dropping any bias so that you can truly give them the care that they need. As brands, the most important thing I would say is continuing to open the door for conversations, whether that is, sessions, webinars, things like that, and saying, hey, you know what, this is something that is not a temporary thing, but something that we truly care about, a conversation
Mm-hmm.
that we want to continue to have. Because what we have found is that, there was a huge burst in interest of talking about diversity and
Mm-hmm.
inclusion and things like that for a while there. And I feel like it's kind of tapered off a little bit. Those
Yeah.
conversations maybe are not as strong anymore. And so, what I always, Steph and I, when we have these conversations, we kind of talk to brands and we say, hey, you know what? Let's talk about this. Let's continue this conversation. And let's say, let's continue going, right? Let's continue to open the space and let's continue to challenge each other so that we can continue it. So it doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop in 2022. It continues to go on so that we can continue to give the care that needs to be given.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Um, and Steph, did you want to add anything to that? I know that's pretty comprehensive, but just want to check in.
Yeah, no, he always speaks very well on that topic.
Uh-huh.
I would say just working with brands, just piggybacking off of what Bree said, I think helping us meet our women where they're at and doing the things that they enjoy doing. It's always good. There's different avenues that we can meet these women at, and just being able to discuss different things, different topics, different brands, what's going on, how can they help. It's always great to have backing and to be given a platform to talk to our women, whether it's media, whether it's through our events, whether it's through our platform. So I think we're always looking for ways to partner with brands. And like Bree said, meeting the need that is there and that's been talked about and making sure it's still at the forefront and not tapering off.
Love that.
Yeah.
So, all right, I got a question for you. How is it? The two of you are sisters.
Oh,
So I gotta just say, not everyone could pull this off. Just saying.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are just so great together, just so powerful. And just because I've known you, pretty long time now. And you're just so supportive of one another. And I could just say that, yeah, not a lot of people could pull this off with their sibling, right?
I know. We get that question all the
Oh
time.
my
And
gosh.
sometimes we're like, I don't even know how we're doing it. But we are very much so opposites. And I think we allow each other to bring in our different dynamics without being judgmental. And that makes it a lot easier, as we say with our clients, like,
Yep.
we're not judgmental. We kind of meet each other where we're at. Like, what are your strengths? I know Bree's strengths, she knows mine, and I try not to step into her boundary, and vice versa. But we grew up in a family. Our parents worked together. They own their own business, and
Mm,
we watched them work and kind of learned from them, and like understanding boundaries and having healthy discussions and being able to be open and honest with each other about where we're at. Maybe we need some time off. Maybe
mhm,
it's just like too much. We're pressuring each other. Different conversations, being able to have those honest conversations with each other, and setting that boundary of work and still being sisters, I think is very much so needed. Because we both have our own individual lives outside of work, and
mhm.
making sure we continue to feed into our family life and each other, and then work. So that definitely will always come second to being family and to being sisters
Oh, that's
first.
so great. I love that. Oh, so good to hear. I really, really appreciate that. So, as we start to wrap up, do you have any kind of final words of wisdom that either of you would like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I would say I know we have a lot of practitioners who may also be interested in kind of going into their own space and creating a private practice or creating a group practice or
Hmm.
whatever. Um, and I would just say continue to plan out, get the resources you need, and think about where the greatest need is and how it aligns with your passions, because that's truly where our company started
Hmm.
to thrive. Like those conversations that we had with you in regard to just like, what is it that we want? You know, where do we want to
Right.
go? Like, who do we want to serve and why? Like, understanding your why is really, really important. And in kind of putting the pieces together so that you can scale. Because it's very easy to kind of get stuck in just like okay, it's just me as a solo practitioner or whatever, but you really do want to establish systems and create spaces and create offers that can scale. So just consider that, and connecting your why is so important. And for any brands out there that may be interested in partnership, definitely talk to us because we love brands that align with our messaging and truly want to support whether it's athletes or women of color, because that allows us to create a greater space for them to come and enjoy, the things that they should be able to enjoy.
Oh, good. Okay. Amazing. Um, and Steph, do you have anything that you'd like to add as we start to
Yeah.
wrap up?
Yeah, I would just say don't be afraid to pivot. We
Okay.
always have a thought in our head of what we want to do and how we're going to do it, and we get
Hmm.
so ambitious, and that's great. But sometimes you really have to sit with yourself and understand that, okay, this is working, this is not working. This doesn't align with my life, like Bree said, figuring out your alignment. And don't be afraid to pivot. Some things just don't work, and that's just life, that's business. But it's okay to maybe drop off for a year and restart and pivot and find your niche and where the need is and where you feel like you can really be of service, because we are in the service business, and you want to make sure you are really aligning with your clients and giving them the best information and the best service possible.
I love that. Yeah. So important. Yeah, and you guys definitely pivoted. And I'm
Yes, big
so
time.
delighted. I'm so delighted that you did. And it was a big pivot. It
Yeah,
really was
Mhm.
significant. It's not like it was just a few little changes. It was significant.
yeah,
In
Yeah.
terms of your, the target audience really honing in and yeah, just increasing that specificity of who it is you want to serve on the NAW collective side of the business and crafting your offers, right?
Mhm.
And of
yes,
course, so it's a different service, delivery model for sure, but it's
Yeah.
scalable, and that's the thing that's so good. And I really would just concur. The importance of scaling is definitely it's of paramount importance, right? Especially
Yeah.
once you start establishing yourself in the traditional one-on-one model.
mhm,
So yeah, I mean, I really give you credit for just taking a hard look at your business model and making that pivot, making the decision that okay, it's going well, but
right,
we really do need to scale, and then just going for it. I love
exactly.
it because it's
Absolutely.
different, right? It's just all different, and I love how you've integrated um, other RDs
Yeah,
into the
Mhm.
scalable model as well. So
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. So I couldn't be more excited for you. I know that this is just the beginning of your success, truly. So you
Thank
are
you.
just
We appreciate
you're on a
that.
great path. What's that?
I said we appreciate that. You've seen us grow.
I
So you
have, and it's just such a thrill, honestly. So yeah, I just think this is the beginning,
yes.
honestly, of your upward trajectory in terms of success and just having that professional gratification. It's just so exciting to see. And most importantly, let's not lose sight of what this is all about. It is about serving, you know, meeting the needs of women of color, right? So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it is a success in terms of the business model, but I would just say equal, maybe even more important, is the idea that, you're finding a way, a unique approach to
Mhm.
serving these people who perhaps were
Yes.
underserved in the past.
Yeah. Yep.
Or,
Mhm.
clearly their needs were
Exactly.
not being met. And you're giving
Mhm.
them that safe space and just helping them to achieve their those goals that they have. So, really want to commend you both for your important work in this world. All right,
You.
guys. So I know you've got places to go and probably have clients waiting. So I'm going to wrap up for now. So I do want to thank you again, though, very sincerely for your willingness to hop on and do this interview. Really appreciate it. It was extremely valuable. And to
Of
our
course.
audience, just a reminder, if you would like to learn more about Stef and Bree's approach, be sure to visit them at their website, and that is stefandbree.com. And that's STEF is in Frank and BRI.com. Alrighty, so visit them there, drop them a note, connect with them as you wish. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. Bye for now.
Bye.